House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has decided that she's going to back incumbents no matter if they're under FBI investigation or not. She's going to back Representative Henry Cuellar's re-election bid. Yes, he's under FBI investigation, and he also has a bunch of terrible policy positions, including being an anti-choice Democrat during this time. Pelosi said to the Texas Tribune, "I support my incumbents. I support every one of them from right to left. That is what I do." Maybe that policy should probably be a bit reconsidered when said incumbent is under FBI investigation, let alone the fact that he holds numerous odious policy positions.
Nancy Pelosi continues to support Texas Representative Henry Cuellar, a notorious anti-abortion dino, over his progressive challenger. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and by now you've all heard about the bombshell leaked draft from the Supreme Court regarding abortion rights in the United States. Now, this story isn't about that specifically, but I do want to quickly point out that what we're witnessing with all of this is a minority population that's forcefully taking leadership over a majority that they know doesn't agree with them or support their causes. Now, the reason why I want to mention this is because I tend to look at a lot of conflicts from around the world and throughout history, and one very, very common theme that comes up whenever there is large-scale social unrest or even warfare is a majority population being ruled by a minority. When a minority is allowed to consolidate power away from the people, that's simply no longer a democracy. Now, the modern-day GOP has challenged every check and balances that our forefathers, who they allegedly revere very highly, put into place to prevent this sort of thing from happening. They've systematically gamed the system for decades in such a way that they've managed to put loyalists into strategically beneficial positions. And in their efforts, the issue of abortion has been their bread and butter. It's not about abortion for them. Talking about abortion is simply a way for them to gain enough support from a niche populace that they're able to do whatever it is they really want to do. Now, they do these things under the cover of darkness, which is why the GOP is so vocally upset about the leak. Just a side note though, it's kind of funny that they still found something to complain about here. It's a huge victory for them, but it's almost like they've forgotten how to do politics without the default being angry. Anyway, with this leak, nearly half of the states in this country are locked and loaded with their own state mandates regarding abortion access and consequences for having an abortion. No state's majority population supports abortion restrictions, just as a side note.
Yes, one of many of Pelosi's contradictions. I remember back to the 2020 primary when she was asked about Warren and Bernie's stances on Medicare for All. She said, "I usually cast my vote for a woman, I just do." And here she is, supporting a man in a race where he's running against a woman. Not only that, but the only Democrat who voted against protecting women's right to choose.
No, by the way, that's such a great point by Jessica. Cuellar has so many problems. He was already one of the most conservative. He was already one of the most corrupt in terms of campaign donations directly from corporations, etc., out of any member of Congress. On top of that, he's such a, that's why Pelosi sees him and think, birds of a feather flock together, right? So she's like, oh, he was also incompetent in that he took illegal bribe money? Wow, that's pretty good. I really like that guy, right?
So in Texas District 28, which stretches from San Antonio to the Texas-Mexico border, Henry Cuellar holds a seat as a representative. Now, Cuellar has a reputation in Texas for being a dino, a Democrat in name only, who has managed to win as a Democrat in a blue district. If he ran as a Republican, he probably wouldn't have won. Now, I actually met one of these guys when I was interviewing some candidates for mayor here in Houston. Everything he said fell in line with the Republican platform, and I'm sure he knew that if he ran as a Republican, he was unlikely to be elected mayor of this blue city. He mentioned Jesus quite a bit, and he even denied the separation of church and state. He stated, as a matter of fact, that this was a Christian nation, despite the actual fact that it is simply not a Christian nation. But back to Cuellar, Jessica Cisneros, a progressive candidate, came frustratingly close to beating him and winning his seat in 2020. I think she was just short by a few thousand votes. She's been endorsed by Bernie and Liz Warren, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, and more. However, the endorsement she hasn't quite locked in is Nancy Pelosi's. Pelosi continues to endorse Henry Cuellar over Cisneros. And given the SCOTUS leak, it's even more intolerable. Now, Cuellar defends his anti-abortion stance by referring to his Catholic upbringing, which we all know is a silly reason to deny support for anything. Decisions made by public servants aren't supposed to be self-serving. If you don't like abortions, don't have one. It's not a matter of morality, it's a matter of control. The moral thing would be to not impose your alleged religious beliefs on people. And I say alleged because who knows if these anti-abortion politicians even believe in the things that they're peddling. When so many Americans vote based on this single issue, the Republican Party can't afford to give it up as a core part of whatever platform they've got left. Cuellar parroting these same ideals while dressed as a Democrat is a farce, and it's unfair to the people who voted for a Democratic candidate in his district. Pelosi, for her part, is not doing her part. If she believes in the pro-choice platform of the party that she leads, she simply would not support this guy. She leans on her endorsement history, which suggests that she supports incumbent Dems as a rule, but she doesn't always. And if that's her stance, then her endorsements aren't really worth much, are they? Now, hopefully Jessica has enough behind her to where she wouldn't need an endorsement from Pelosi in order to win over those last few voters she needs to unseat Cuellar. But Pelosi's reluctance to endorse her, even when given the alternative, is another instance of Pelosi being out of touch with modern Democrats and modern Americans.